I think the thing to remember is there's options. I think it's everybody's going to be a little bit different in what their needs are. But again, the gift of Holland Home is the scope of our services and what we want to bring to people. And we're here just to serve. And that's the only reason we exist, is to serve those that are in the community, whether it's here at our facilities or still living out at their homes.
A lot of the older adults who are in the nursing home used to be in the hospital for a long time in the hospital, and now we're serving them here in the nursing home unit. So it can be challenging at times because it is a very frail population and an aging population, but also with that brings a lot of joys and satisfaction to help take care of these older adults.
Welcome to This Day and Age, where we continue to bring together experts in all things aging, giving you vital information to help you and your loved ones make confident decisions while navigating life's journey. I'm your host, Phil Tower, and on our latest episode, we are going to continue to take a deep dive into the impact that this growing aging population that you and I are a part of will have on the entire world for years to come, and certainly in the community we live in here in West Michigan. I'm very pleased to be joined in this episode by Dr. Rob Riekse. Dr. Rob Riekse is a geriatrician with Trinity Health here in Grand Rapids, and Troy Vugteveen. Troy is president and CEO of Holland Home. Troy, first of all, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Phil.
And Dr. Rob Riekse, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you for inviting me as well.
I'm happy to have you both here to continue. This has been a really important ongoing conversation as we look at this avalanche of aging. That's kind of a dramatic way of putting it, but it is a bit overwhelming, but tremendously opportunistic for people who are planning or proactive. I want to talk to you about this because there are just so many aspects of this in terms of the overall impact that this growing aging population is having. We've learned in previous episodes of This Day and Age that all baby boomers, and this is one of those real eye-opening and what kind of statistics, all baby boomers will be older than 65 by 2030. That'll make up 21%, so more than 1 in 5 of the population. And for today's conversation, I think it's particularly important to note that by 2034, so barely 10 years from now, those over 65 will outnumber those 18 years and younger for the first time in history. Troy, I'm going to turn to you first as president and CEO of a highly reputable senior living and care organization like Holland Home. You guys have been around for over a century. You have been paying attention to these statistics for a long time, I'm sure, but just kind of as you hear these numbers and you're reminded of them, what comes to mind for you?
That's a great question. And I would say, really, when you look at those statistics, they really paint a picture, I think, of both the challenges that are coming up and the opportunities that are coming up. And you mentioned it already, Phil, that Holland Home's been around for 130 years. That's a long time.
It is.
And during those 130 years, that's really been what has shaped Holland Home, is looking at, what are the opportunities that are coming our way and what are the challenges that are coming our way, and how are we going to address those things? And I think to answer your question, some of the questions that we have to ask when we look at those statistics, things like, are we going to have enough space to care for the seniors when they come here? Facilities are looking at that all the time. What do we need to add to our facilities? What's that going to look like, knowing that this is a growing population? How do we continue to provide wellness models, knowing that people are going to have, different needs as they come into our place? For instance, we have a vibrant living program, and you guys have done podcasts on that before, I know, with us. And our vibrant living program, it's a wellness program, and through that program, we offer a variety of different things, but all these activities, all these fitness classes, they require personal trainers, they require fitness instructors, they require people that run the activities. So when you look at the labor market, that's one of the questions. Well, how do you do these things? How can we provide these activities for people, knowing that's why they're coming here? Mm-hmm. So that's definitely one of the things that we continue to look at. As we continue to provide services for people, we provide services across the continuum. So when people come to Holland Home, they're coming here either to live in independent living, possibly assisted living, maybe skilled nursing, But all of these areas require staffing. And what's that going to look like down the road, as you mentioned, when you look at those statistics? So these are all things that we are continuing to look at and say, okay, how can we do things? How can we do things smarter? And how can we continue to meet our mission that we have out there to this community to make sure we're doing all that we can for people?
And real quickly, is it safe to say that your residents here at Holland Home are one of your greatest assets in terms of planning for the future? Listening to them, right?
Yeah, that's the greatest gift that we have. I mean, we're here to serve those people that come to live here. I think the other gift we have is we're here to serve the people that are out in the community, because there's some people that choose to come and live at a facility. There's some people that are choosing to stay in their homes. And so at Holland Home, what we're looking at is how do we meet the needs of the seniors that are out in the community, and not just the facility, but out in the community. And how do we do that in such a way that we meet the expectations that we have set for ourselves through our mission and what we are here to do? And so for us, it's a huge gift, and we're grateful for those that we have been given the opportunity to be able to serve.
Dr. Rob Riekse, you are a geriatrician. That means your specialty in medicine is working with older people. I think, and that's an interesting term alone, if you just unpack that word old, because it's changing as we continue to talk about this topic. But as you are a geriatrician looking at the medical community's perspective, could you talk, first of all, about your background? It is a unique specialty in medicine, and it's becoming more and more important. I'm just curious, what attracted you to the specialty, and just some of your observations as you heard Troy talk about the numbers?
Yes, as a geriatrician, I have several different roles. I'm the clinician here for Holland Home, one of the clinicians here, and but in addition to that, I also serve as a teacher. I'm the program director for our Geriatric Medicine Fellowship Program through Trinity Health St. Mary's, and so we do a lot of teaching about geriatric medicine as well. My interest in geriatric medicine probably began many years ago when I was very close to my grandparents. All four of them lived well into their 90s and lived well, which was very encouraging, and they lived close by, so I would see them frequently. My dad's parents, during the summer, while they vacationed down in Florida, I would see my mom's parents who lived down in the Allegheny area. So that, I think, stemmed a strong interest of mine to learn about geriatric medicine and help take care of the older adults. And that, actually, my dad's parents lived here at Holland Home back in the 1990s, and so it was interesting when I was in medical school, I would come visit them while they lived here in the DeVos unit of Raybrook, and now I'm the clinician here. Mm-hmm. So it ties it all in well together, I think, from a personal aspect as well as a professional aspect.
And you can't leave out the medical factor for a person as they look at the future, because their health and their personal health could determine where their option is in terms of living. If their health is poor, they don't have the option, most likely, of living at home.
Right. No, that's true. We take care of a very frail population, especially in the nursing home population. And a lot of the older adults who are in the nursing home used to be in the hospital for a long time in the hospital. And now we're serving them here in the nursing home unit. So it can be challenging at times because it is a very frail population and an aging population. But also with that, bring a lot of joys and satisfaction to help take care of these older adults.
And one of the big challenges is resources of people to take care of older adults. We know that it's impacting, Troy, as you mentioned, people who live at Holland Home. It's also impacting people who want in-home care. So as we look at these many challenges in terms of dealing with an older population, let's talk about some of these current solutions. Troy, I'm going to turn to you. You have to keep an eye on what things look like currently, but then what they're going to look like 10 years from now. Can you just touch on what things are like currently in terms of caring for the aging population and how you're dealing proactively with being ready for the future?
Yeah, I think really there's probably three specific areas that we could focus on. I think one is looking at people that they're able to be there for their families and take care of their families. The other one is, I think, that we can look at here is those that are focused on wanting home care to come into their homes. And then a third one, I think that's important for us to kind of talk about, is really what does that look like when people come to live at the facilities, whether it's Raybrook or Breton or another facility in the Grand Rapids area. But to start with, when we think of family networks, it's probably one of the greatest gifts that people can have if they're able to care for their parents, their loved ones. And if we can help with making that work, we want to be there to be a part of that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the statistics in that kind of paint a picture as well, though, too. Really, the average amount per week that they're finding that family members, when they do choose to care for their loved ones, is upwards of 25 hours a week. So that starts to become a number of hours that they're trying to fit into the normal routines of life. And 1 in 4, it's up to like over 40 hours a week that they are spending trying to care for them. So
Sure.
So number one, I think it paints a picture in that particular area that it can be challenging for people, especially if they have their own children. They're trying to care for their own at home, and then they have their parents. Sometimes they call that the sandwich generation, where they're trying to do a whole bunch of different things all at once. So again, it's a great calling. If they can do it, we fully want to support that, because family is really where it's at. The other one we kind of mentioned briefly is with home care. And Holland Home is blessed with its own home care agency as well, too, which is Atrio Home Care. And that's another great option for people, for those that maybe they want to stay in their home, or maybe they just need care for a short period of time. We're able to go in with our staff, with our services, and be able to help out. And it could be even that it's family that are there helping as well, too, and you do that in combination together. So there's a number of different ways to look at that. And then I think the other one is when we look at people coming to live at a senior community like Holland Home, and what does that look like for them? And for many, it's a great solution. I mean, because there's just options when you come to a facility like Holland Home. You can live in independent living in one of the apartments and one of the condos, the homes at our Breton campus. They just are building the Breton Homes North there, which are beautiful homes. So it's just like what you kind of remember growing up in with your normal home, and people can come and do that. And if they need additional care, they can go into other levels of care, or they could even have home care come to them, even if they're living at Holland Home. So I think too that one of the benefits of coming to live at a place like Holland Home is we call it our life care promise. Mm-hmm. And I really think that that's something that people may not fully understand, but really the simplicity of it is, if you come to Holland Home, we're making a commitment that we're going to care for you, even if you run out of your own financial resources. We position ourselves that we can provide benevolent care for people, and that's an important piece of who Holland Home is. And there's just security in knowing that if you come here with a spouse, you come here with your loved one, if something happens, they're going to be cared for, and you don't have to be concerned with that. But I think, Phil, out of those options, any one of those are great options. It's just each person has to determine what's gonna work best for them and what's going to serve their loved ones in the best way possible.
And there is a growing number of adults. There's a growing number of adults who have no kids. And this is another, you started talking about the family network. There's nothing better than a tight-knit family. And you talked about Dr. Rob Riekse caring for your grandparents. That is really powerful. It's a blessing to have that. But if you choose and you age, whether you're a single adult or you're a married couple with no children, that presents a new set of challenges. And I would assume, and I'll have you both weigh in on this, you got to be more proactive that way because you don't have that family network built in.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think too, so for instance, if you were to come to Holland Home and live in our independent living facility, oftentimes people think of being able to see Dr. Riekse only if you're in skilled nursing for some reason, and maybe you're recovering from a surgery, and they have the benefit of being able to be at a facility where a person like Dr. Riekse is able to come and visit them and care. But we also have it in independent living as well too. In our independent living facilities, we actually have doctors' offices right there. So if somebody needs to go see the doctor, they don't have to go out and go a few miles down the street to see a doctor. They can just walk down the stairs and they're right there to be able to see the doctor. And I think that's a huge benefit that we have within our facilities, and actually not a lot of places have that, where they're able to provide that level of care. And I'll also say too, it's kind of a little bit taking a side road here, but Dr. Riekse, he can't brag about himself, but we are blessed with the best doctors around, and we honestly are. I mean, these are geriatricians who are trained, who know what they're doing, And it's not just their skill set, but it's the fact that the doctors that we have here are fully committed to our mission. I mean, they love Christ. They're here because they see it as a mission, and it just radiates from what they do. So not only do you get to go down and go to the doctor's office right here if you're living here, you get to see doctors that you know and truly care. And it's not just a number here for them. It's they see each person as a person that they truly care about. And I think that's a huge benefit that you get when you come to a place like Holland Home.
Dr. Rob, I'm certainly going to let you bask in that praise from Troy Vugteveen, but I want to also talk to you about, I think, just as I'm hearing Troy talking about this, it's just the joy you must have in just the whole spectrum of different people you see. And everybody's different. Everybody has a unique challenge. But as Troy said, to have that doctor that they know they can trust, that has that Christian ethic that they know is going to be there for them, that's got to be a really big part of your approach to care, is it not?
Very much so, and thank you very much for the accolades. I've been here, I'm going on my 18th year here, and part of us, I would say, a really great practice through Trinity Health, where they're a geriatric practice. Our practice is somewhat unique in terms of our practice is basically based at the location where I'm at the facility here at Holland Home. And so I see all three different levels of care: independent living, assisted living, as well as nursing. And throughout those many years, I've taken care of several people throughout all three levels of care and have seen them transition and try to care for them through these transitions, which again can be challenging, but again can be very rewarding working with the patients and families as well. Our practice, as I said, is somewhat unique because we're focused here. Not the typical practices that a doctor will spend maybe half a day at the nursing home besides their typical practice that they have out in the community. So I feel blessed that we have such a practice that is set up like that, what we have.
Are you seeing some of the challenges change as time goes on? Because obviously, again, every patient is different. Are you seeing some of those challenges change in terms of new medical issues, or certainly the technology and the science of care is improving for geriatric medicine? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, very much so. And as I said earlier, some of the folks that we take care of in the nursing home would have been taken care of in the hospital setting years ago. And so there's a kind of a specialty part of geriatrics called a sniffist. You may have heard of what a hospitalist is, and that's a doctor who just practices in the hospital. Years ago, it used to be the doctor would be in the community, and that doctor would follow you through the hospital as well. Well, that's generally no longer the case, where you have your doctor, primary care doctor, in the community, and then you're seen by the hospital specialist when you're getting admitted to the hospital. As you can say, I'm also a sniffist as I practice. Part of my practice, a third of my practice is in the nursing home, taking care of folks who are in that frail condition.
All right, we're going to continue our conversation here in just a moment as we talk with both Troy Vugteveen, CEO and President of Holland Home, and Dr. Rob Riekse with Trinity Health and Holland Home as we talk about caring for the aging. We want to take just a moment to thank our great experts on all things aging from Holland Home, Faith Hospice, and Atria Home Care. They're here bringing this conversation to you, our listeners. And if you'd like to learn more on how these great organizations are continuing to support the growing aging population, please visit thisdayandage.org. Again, that's thisdayandage.org. All right, so we've already established that current solutions for senior care are under stress. We've been talking about that not only in this conversation, but in previous episodes. I'd like to turn to you again, Troy, to talk about the conversations, the collaborations, and brainstorming. And you've got to pull in a wide group of experts from all walks of life, professionals from all walks of life, as we assess an aging population. Can you talk about that? Obviously, a lot of factors, including, as you mentioned earlier, not running out of space. Holland Home is great, but how many more Holland Homes can we build, right?
Yeah,
think about that.
Yep, that's a great question, Phil. And really, kind of the exciting thing for us is this year has been a year of strategic planning. So actually, our board has come together, putting together right now a strategic plan that'll carry us for the next 5 to 10 years is what we're looking at. So some of the things we've really been focused on, one is with the facilities. What should that look like? There was a trend for a while where people were kind of thinking that, hey, we want to get away from, increasing the size of facilities or adding more to them because more and more people want to stay home. But really, when you look at the statistics that we've been talking about here, the trend is really telling us that you need to stay focused on what these facilities are looking like. Do you add more campuses? Do you add more to what you have right now? One of the things that we're very focused on is we want to maintain our campuses, keep them looking the best that they can possibly look. And what is that going to take? And what does that look like? But also looking down the road, too, to say, where is the need? Where can we be a brighter light for our community to provide more services, whether that's through a facility or whether that's through our home care agency? What's that going to look like? We know, too, as we move into the future here, that dementia care is an extremely important component of what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
And we're excited this year. We'll be rolling out some new pieces to our dementia program and some new programs that are attached to what we do for people, both in our facilities as well as out in the community. So those are things that we're really focused on right now. When we look at the future, too, we know that if labor is going to be a challenge down the road, and it is already, what is that going to mean when it comes to technology? And Dr. Riekse kind of touched on it already, that there are technologies out there that help people to be able to remain in their homes for longer periods of time than what they did before. And so we're investing into some of those things as well, too. How can we help people to stay longer in their homes and bring the services to them? And that even includes things like our Vibrant Living program.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're saying, how can we bring the activities and the great exercise routines and all those things that you get when you come and you live at a facility, how can we also bring that to somebody's home? And what can that look like when you think of a program that you bring to a person's home where they can stay put there? The other thing that we're looking at, too, to try and help people stay in their homes is dementia training for spouses. If they want to remain in their home and one of them has dementia, what does that look like so that we can help to train them, whether it's through different medical things or different techniques when it comes to dementia, to be able to be that family member that continues to provide that support. We're also saying to ourselves, too, this is kind of a new age in which people, when they come to a facility, they have higher expectations for what they're going to find there. So, for instance, on our Breton campus, we just recently completed the Breton Woods Park. So it's a huge park, and it's got a huge walking path, exercise equipment along the path that you can stop and do exercises with. It's got 3 pickleball courts on it.
Yeah.
It's got shuffleboard. We just added some restrooms there so that people don't have to go back to their places. It's all right there in the park for them. So those are the other innovative things that we're looking at as well, too, is people want to continue to be active. So what does that look like, and how can we do that for people to help them maintain that level of activity that they really want? So we're excited about the future. Even though we look at these statistics and we know there's challenges with it, we probably see more opportunities than we see challenges. But we're excited to continue to serve the seniors out there. And I think for me personally, the excitement for me is I get to work for an organization that truly does have a mission that's got Christ as its foundation. So anything that we do, we want that to be the focus, and everything that we build on comes off of that. So for me, that's a huge gift, and to be surrounded by people like Dr. Riekse and staff and people that come here because they truly have a love for this industry and for what it's doing.
You touched on something which we've touched on previously in several of these episodes, and it's the Vibrant Living component here at Holland Home. And I'd just like to ask you to both comment on this. I mentioned this. Today's 72-year-old is running marathons. They're working out multiple days a week. Troy, you may need to put a rock wall on some of these future Holland Home campuses. You may be sending people to the moon for all we know. It's safe to say the 72-year-old today was nothing like when we were in our 20s thinking, boy, these people are old. But they did live a different life than today's 72-year-old. I'll just have you both weigh in on that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And a rock wall, that's really not out of the question.
I don't
mean, you actually got me thinking. It's kind of like, hey, where could we put that?
Dr. Rob already said I've got 3 patients.
There you go, right? Sure.
Right. Well, and actually the reality of that is that provides an environment too, not just for the people that are living here, but their grandkids that are coming here to visit them.
Absolutely.
What can we be doing to make this an environment that attracts the families of those loved ones, to come here, the grandkids, so that they can have fun when they come to visit grandma and grandpa. And I think, to your point, that we're seeing these people, they're doing marathons,
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing the activity that they get into. And again, on one of our campuses, we just put in a whole new physical activity room with brand new weight systems, and they're all based on air compression. And person goes and they got a little wristband. They sit down right there and they wave their wristband by the piece of equipment, and it moves. It's programmed to know that person. But that's the level that we are dealing with when people are coming in now, because they're wanting to continue to have a vibrant life and to have a life where they're active and continuing to be involved with their neighbors, in fact, too, with exercise classes. And so you're totally right on, Phil, in what you said.
Are you seeing that as well, Dr. Rupp?
For sure, yeah, and also not only physically but also mentally. We're in a technological age where iPads are just the norm these days, and that's a big change over the last few years as well. Where I have patients who come in with their iPhones and ask questions, and so it's a bit challenging at times, to be honest, but I love it, so it's can be fun.
And you talk with your colleagues about this too. So I mean, you've got to stay a step ahead of these seniors with all their questions, and obviously they're more informed, they have questions. Can you talk about that, about how you work with your colleagues to stay one step ahead?
Sure, yeah. Well, there's great resources that are easily available these days, and there's one called Up to Date, where it's the state of the art, what's the standard of practice, basically. So Trinity Health provides that to all their clinicians, basically. So I feel like I've strong evidence to practice on, per se, and that helps to try to answer any questions that patients do come with us with.
If there are parents listening right now who have kids, especially kids who are in high school, maybe thinking about pre-med, probably a need for more geriatricians as well in the future, right?
For sure, yeah. There's always a need for more geriatricians, and the need started more than 30 years ago, and unfortunately, the number of geriatricians is actually decreasing. There are about 7,000 geriatricians in the United States right now, and it's expected that in 2025, you'll need at least 30,000 geriatricians to take care of the aging population, and that's just not feasible. And there's many factors in play because of that, because there, in terms of why aren't there as many geriatricians as there should be. Medical school debt is realistically more than $200,000 when a person's coming out of medical school. That's being realistic, and unfortunately, the reimbursement is not the greatest in geriatric medicine as it is compared to other more technological advanced specialties such as cardiology. So it is challenging. It's not reimbursed as well in terms of time. There is some change in terms of reimbursement for that, so that's encouraging, but that's definitely a factor in place why a lot of folks don't go into geriatric medicine.
I think the need, though, is clear, as Troy's talking about. There is this continuing growing number of older people, so it's a great opportunity that exists there, and I want to turn to you, Troy, for your final thoughts. We have people listening who are beginning to think about the future, not only for themselves, but they're also right now facing the future with aging parents. And there's a lot to unpack here. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners in terms of what to be thinking about, or just as you think about this, because you're talking with these people all the time?
Yeah, I think the thing to remember is there's options, and it's not just that there is one approach that's going to meet everybody's needs. And I think that's the gift of Holland Home that I have seen is there are options when you come to Holland Home, whether you want to come and live at one of the facilities, whether you want to utilize its home care agency. The breadth and scope of the medical services that are here as well too is an amazing gift. And Dr. Riekse touched on some of it, and And also too, even with through our hospice program, where we have doctors through our hospice program that provide palliative care services, that provide the hospice services that are needed. And that's where I kind of, when I take a step back, I just stand amazed at the doctors and the medical team that God has brought here, because it's these people that are continuing to raise the bar on how we provide care, and especially with our palliative care programs.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing thing. And I just think, Dr. Riekse touched on it as well too, but when we think of options, technology is going to be a key player in all of this. It can never replace that human touch and that human being, but technology is definitely an area where when people come to Holland Home, one of the gifts they have is every single unit here, every single home that you would come to live in has internet, and it's just part of what's provided here. And we're doing that because we know when they come in, they may need some type of telehealth service, and without internet, it's tough to get that. So that's kind of one of those forward-looking things that we are doing, is making sure that every single person that comes in is going to have that internet service to do those things that Dr. Riekse touched on.
Right.
So I think the thing to remember is there's options. I think everybody's going to be a little bit different in what their needs are. But the gift of Holland Home is the scope of our services and what we want to bring to people. And we're here just to serve. And that's the only reason we exist, is to serve those that are in the community, whether it's here at our facilities or still living out at their homes. And it's a huge blessing to be able to be a part of that.
Well, I thank you for saying that. And the most important thing, as you've heard Troy in those summarizing remarks, is don't make assumptions. Get involved. Ask questions. Be proactive. Take advantage of the mountain of wisdom here through Holland Home, Faith Hospice, and Atrial Home Care. And okay, let's face it, there was a lot to unpack. First and foremost, I want to thank my guest. Troy Vugteveen is President and CEO of Holland Home. Troy, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Dr. Rob Riekse, Geriatrician with Trinity Health in Grand Rapids and Holland Home. Dr. Rob, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much as well.
We've talked about a lot, but most importantly, we want you to continue to stay tuned. If you need to catch up on some of the previous episodes, please do that. And we will continue to take a look at the emerging trends amid these seismic demographic shifts. They're there, but we're arming you with this information. So we hope you'll subscribe to our podcast. That way you won't miss an episode. And please do share this conversation with your family, friends, so they can be informed and make confident decisions as they age, just like we talked about. And until next time, for This Day and Age, I'm your host, Phil Tower. Thank you for listening.